Chapter 2 Globe, Latitudes and Longitudes. Let's learn the equator, parallels and meridians, latitudes or parallels, heat zones of the earth, longitudes or meridians, Indian Standard Time.
In the previous chapter, you have read that the earth is not perfectly round. It is a sphere which is slightly flattened at the poles and bulges slightly at the equator. Such a shape is called a geoid.
A key geographical question throughout the human experience has been, where am I? The ancient Greek geographer Ptolemy created a grid system and listed the coordinates for places throughout the known world in his book Geography. But it was not until the Middle Ages that the latitude and longitude system was developed and implemented. This system is written in degrees. You would probably have little use for latitude or longitude while trying to find a place in a town or city. You would find it more convenient to use a map that shows local streets and avenues. But you might need latitudes and longitudes to locate yourself in a place such as an ocean or a desert. Brain tickler. Why do seasons occur? The equator. It is difficult to locate a place on the earth as it neither has corners and sides, nor top and bottom. The earth rotates on its axis. If we draw a line passing through the center of the earth along its rotational axis, the line would pass through the north and the south pole. The two poles can be used as two fixed points. The equator is an imaginary line perpendicular to the earth's axis. It is equidistant from the two poles and divides the globe into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. All parallel circles from the equator up to the poles are called parallels of latitudes. The equator represents the 0-degree latitude. Most locations on the equator experience consistently high temperatures throughout the year. They also experience almost 12 hours of daylight every day during the year. During the equinoxes, in autumn and spring, the sun is directly overhead the equator, resulting in exactly 12-hour days and 12-hour nights. Info height. The equator is 40,075 km long. Parallels and meridians. The globe is the true representation of Earth. It has two types of circles, namely parallels and meridians.
Latitudes or parallels. The lines running in circles parallel to the equator are known as latitudes. Latitudes are measured in degrees. There are 360 degrees in a circle, 60 minutes in a degree and 60 seconds in a minute. The equator is the starting line and marked as 0 degree. The distance between the equator and the North Pole is 90 degree. The latitude of South Pole is 90 degrees south and latitude of North Pole is 90 degree north.
The parallels are drawn at an interval of 1 degree. Thus, there are 90 parallels in the southern hemisphere and 90 in the northern hemisphere. Hence, there are 180 lines of latitude on the surface of the earth, not including the equator. The places near the equator are said to be in low latitudes, while those near the poles are in high latitudes. All parallels are complete circles except 90 degree north and 90 degree south. They are points. The equator is the largest parallel. The length of the other parallels decreases as one moves away from the equator towards the poles. The equator lies halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. Lines of latitude are always parallel to the equator and equidistant from one another. Every line of latitude is 69 miles away from both the previous line and the next line. The degree designated to each line is the angular distance between it and the equator. Latitudes north of the equator are often termed as positive, while latitudes to the south are called negative.
Info Hive. Eratosthenes 276 BCE to 195 BCE, a Greek, coined the term geography and invented the system of latitude and longitude to locate a place on Earth.
Other important parallels from north to south. The axis of the Earth is inclined at an angle of 66.5 degrees to the plane of its orbit, or 23.5 degrees from the perpendicular to the ecliptic plane. This inclination of the Earth's axis helps us to mark the following important parallels or latitudes on the globe. The Arctic Circle at 66.5 degrees north, the Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees north, the Tropic of Capricorn at 23.5 degrees south, the Antarctic Circle at 66.5 degrees south. Heat zones of the Earth. There are different heat zones on Earth which are classified according to the variation in temperatures. The various heat zones are:
Torrid Zone, the hottest heat zone. Between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, the midday sun is exactly overhead at least twice a year on all latitudes, and the sun rays fall vertically on these latitudes. So, this part of the Earth receives the maximum heat from the sun. This zone is called the Torrid Zone. Temperate Zone, the habitable heat zone. Beyond the tropics, the midday sun is never directly overhead. This happens because the sun rays come at a slant in these areas. So, these parts of the Earth receive mild heat from the sun and thus have moderate temperatures. These zones are called the temperate zones. Frigid Zone, the coldest heat zone. Areas between the Arctic Circle and the North Pole and those between the Antarctic Circle and the South Pole receive sun rays at a big slant. Due to this, the sun is never much above the horizon. So, this part of the Earth receives the least amount of heat and remains very cold. These zones are called frigid zones and lie near the poles.
Temperate Zone, the habitable heat zone. Beyond the tropics, the midday sun is never directly overhead. This happened because the sun rays come at a slant in these areas. So, this part of the Earth receive mild heat from the sun and thus have moderate temperature. These zones are called the temperate zone. Brain tickler. Which continent occupies the most degrees of latitude? Longitudes or meridians. The imaginary lines which run from one pole to another from north to south are called longitudes. These are also called meridians of longitudes. Unlike latitudes, all meridians of longitudes are of equal length. Hence, it was difficult to decide the 0-degree longitude. So, all countries decided that the line passing through Greenwich should be made the 0-degree longitude. This happened because the British Royal Observatory is located at Greenwich. The 0-degree longitude is also called the prime meridian. Furthermore, the Earth has been divided into 180-degree longitudes towards the east and 180-degree longitudes towards the west. The prime meridian and 180-degree longitude together divide the earth into two equal halves. Both 180-degree east and 180-degree west are on the same line. All the meridians meet at the poles. The length of a meridian is approximately 12,450 km on Earth. The maximum distance between any two meridians is at the equator, that is 111 km for 1 degree. The distance between two meridians decreases as we go away from equator towards the poles. Info Hive. The 180-degree meridian is called the international date line. Info Hive. Any two opposite meridians when taken together form a complete circle called Great Circle.
Brain tickler. Name a clock that is helpful in longitude calculation.
Uses of latitudes and longitudes. Latitudes and longitudes help us in finding the exact location of a place on the earth. Longitudes help us to know the time of a place. Latitudes help us to know the temperature of a place. Locating places on the globe. The parallels and the meridians can be used to define the location and the direction of any place on the globe or map. They intersect each other at right angle, that is 90 degree. The network of parallels and meridians on a globe is called the Earth's grid or the geographic grid. We can locate any place on the surface of the earth with the help of this grid. When we say that Delhi is 28 degree north, we are just saying that Delhi is in the northern hemisphere and 28 degree latitude. But this does not show Delhi's position with respect to the prime meridian. So, we also need information about longitude to know the exact position of Delhi on the earth. Delhi is approximately at 77 degree east longitude. So, to give exact position of Delhi, we need to say that it is 28 degree north and 77 degree east. Info Hive. 0 degree longitude and 0 degree latitude is located in the Atlantic Ocean to the west of Africa. Longitude and time. We know that the Earth takes about 24 hours to make one rotation on its axis. Thus, the sunrise and the sunset easily tell us about morning and evening time. When the sun is directly overhead, it is midday and you can match your watch to 12 noon at this time. The sun casts the smallest shadow when it is directly overhead. But the relative position of the sun in the sky keeps on changing as we move across the globe, either from east to west or vice versa. So, if it is midday in India, it can be another time in England. People felt a need for some standard system for keeping time. Time in different countries is fixed according to its relative position to Greenwich because the prime meridian passes through Greenwich. We know that the earth rotates from west to east and hence the sun's apparent position changes from east to west. The places which are situated towards the east of the prime meridian will have sunrise earlier than those which are situated towards the west. So, Australia will witness an earlier sunrise compared to India. Similarly, the sun will rise later in England than in India. Hence, the time in Australia would always be ahead of time in India. Similarly, the time in England would always be behind the time in India. As we may understand, the earth rotates through 360 degrees of longitude in 24 hours. The difference in time between any two places is due to the difference in longitudes of those two places. Kolkata is located at 90 degree east longitude and London at 0 degree longitude. The time difference between Kolkata and London is 6 hours. As Kolkata is towards the east of London, the time at Kolkata will be 6 hours ahead of London. Thus, a change in each degree of longitude denotes a time difference of 4 minutes. Info height. For many years, each country had its own prime meridian. France used a meridian passing through Paris, while England used a meridian passing through Greenwich. In 1884, scientists made Greenwich, England, the official worldwide prime meridian.
Calculation for time in different time zones.
Total number of degrees is equal to 360. Number of hours in a day is equal to 24. So, number of degrees per hour is equal to 360 degree by 24 is equal to 15 degree. Since there are 60 minutes in an hour, so 15 degree is equal to 60 minutes. Hence, number of minutes per degree is equal to 60 by 15 is equal to 4 minutes. This means that when we move 1 degree longitude towards east, the time advances by 4 minutes. On the other hand, the time goes behind by 4 minutes when we move 1 degree towards west. If you are in London at 12 and want to know what time it is in Japan, you would need to first figure out that London is 0 degrees, that is right on the prime meridian, and Japan is 135 degrees east. So the difference is 135 degrees divided by 50, which equals 9. This means there is a 9-hour difference between London and Japan. Since Japan is further east than London is, you would add 9 hours to 12. That is, when it is 12 noon in London, the time in Japan is 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. India is a big country and a number of longitudes pass through it. So, there is a difference of about 1 hour 45 minutes in sunrise times between Dibrugarh, that is in Assam, and Dwarka, that is in Gujarat. But we need a standard time throughout the country for the ease of maintaining time schedule. The Indian Standard Time has been fixed on 82.50 East, that is 82 degree 30 minute meridian. 82.5 into 4 equals to 330 minutes equals to 5 hour 30 minutes. The above calculation shows that the Indian Standard Time is ahead of the Greenwich Mean Time by 5 hours 30 minutes. Some countries are so large that only one time zone is not enough for them. For example, there are 11 time zones in Russia. There are 9 time zones in the USA. The whole earth has been divided into 24 time zones. Each time zone covers 15 degree longitude. Recap. The equator is an imaginary line perpendicular to the Earth's axis. It represents the 0 degree latitude. Meridian are semicircles which stretch from North Pole to the South Pole. The prime or Greenwich meridian is the point of reference for the other meridians. Parallels are circles which are perpendicular to meridians. The equator is the most important parallel. Time in different countries is fixed according to their position relative to Greenwich. The entire Earth has been divided into 24 time zones. Each time zone covers 15 degree longitudes.
Life skills. Mother, why is it so hot in the equatorial region? My dear, it is so because the sun remains almost directly overhead every day, thus keeping temperatures high. But due to some human activities, it is becoming warmer day by day at poles also. Oh, how can we prevent this warming, mother? We should encourage and promote the activities that help save our earth such as planting trees and reducing the use of fossil fuels. Global warming threatens life on Earth. Help reduce it.